Okay, I hope this provides some good value to you. So here's the deal. In experimenting with this new medium of YouTube Shorts, I thought, well, there are definitely over 100 things I want to say about business and entrepreneurship. So I came up with the idea, why don't I film 100 shorts, each one on a different business topic, and film them all in one day as a sort of day in the life type of thing, but then post them just one per day. So I filmed them all in late January 2023 in one day, plan them out based on which video would post on which day, and then I scheduled them to post one per day from February 1st through mid-May. Now I'm here on a rainy early June day, and I wanted to put them all in one place for you. So I decided to call these entrepreneur rules just because I thought it had a nice ring to it, I guess, but they're really more entrepreneur guidelines, maybe even just entrepreneur thoughts, because who am I? Who am I to say what a rule should be? These are just things that I've learned along the way, and they've helped me out a lot, and I hope they help you too. So without further ado, here they are, the 100 entrepreneur rules. Entrepreneur rule number 1, start with why. Starting a business is not just about creating a product or service, it's about finding part of your purpose in life. Simon Sinek, in his book, Start With Why, explains that the most successful companies and leaders he profiles, Apple and even Martin Luther King Jr., they start with why, their purpose, their cause. As an entrepreneur, you have to understand the why behind your business. This will help you not only guide your decisions, it'll also help you recruit employees and even customers who share the same values you do. Entrepreneur rule number 2, pick your stresses. Stress is unavoidable, and one key is not to try to avoid it altogether, but rather to find the right stress for you. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, the wrong stress might be the stress of having a boss and sitting in a cubicle. Now, being out on your own and not knowing where your next customer is coming from, that is objectively stressful, but for you as an entrepreneur, it might be the right stress for you because you can live with it, you can tolerate it, you might even find it a little bit exciting, so it's a good fit. Researcher and author Dr. Kelly McGonigal says that stress is actually only unhealthy in people who perceive it as a bad thing. So in life and in business, pick your stressors, put them in context, and embrace them. Entrepreneur rule number 3, lead with your heart. So they say that in the 19th century and before, success and the good jobs were about brawn. In the 20th century, it was all about brains. And in the 21st century, it is and will be about heart. Lead with your heart. Connect with your customers, with your team, with the public on an authentic human level. Inspiring emotional reactions to you, your product, your business. It's good for the soul and it's a differentiator. Entrepreneur rule number 4, take care of yourself. You cannot possibly perform your best in business if you fail to take care of yourself. Sleep, eat right, exercise, find the right self-care routine for you. I know it can feel self-indulgent and like the last thing you want to spend your time on when you're thinking about a million other things, but it will help you deal with those million other things. You will be more productive. You'll make better decisions. You'll think more creatively, and you'll be happier and have a better attitude, which will help keep everyone around you happy too. So don't skimp on this rule. Take care of yourself. Entrepreneur rule number 5, celebrate successes. Shout out to the Nike Run Club app for this one. They really helped me improve my running. And one thing that the coach in the ear on the app says is at the beginning of a run, let's celebrate the fact that we're running. We've done the hard part, we've started running, and every step is a new success. And why do people wait until the end of a run to start celebrating anyway? And the same is true in building a business. Every little battle you win, every little puzzle you solve, every step forward is a success. And each of those successes deserves to be acknowledged and celebrated. Entrepreneur rule number 6, only do what only you can do. I'm paraphrasing, but this is a concept from Peter Drucker's book, The Effective Executive, and he also has an essay called What Only the CEO Can Do. And it's a question you should ask yourself when you're thinking about how to spend your time and how to delegate. So you ask, can someone else at my company do this? If the answer is yes, delegate. You can't try to do everything yourself. If you try to perform personally every task you possibly can, that's a recipe for failure. The question isn't whether you can do the task, it's whether someone else can do the task. If they can, delegate it. Only do the things that only you can do. Entrepreneur rule number 7, what gets measured gets managed. I've also heard it phrased as what gets measured gets improved. This is a phrase that's often attributed to Peter Drucker, but apparently that's apocryphal. He never actually said it, but a bunch of other smart people and successful business leaders have said it since then. So really, it doesn't matter who said it. What matters is that it's true. I've seen it work over and over. We as humans focus on stats. We love to gamify. So in business, whether it's sales calls, revenue, users, or how you track your time, as Peter Drucker suggests, measure what matters. We naturally gravitate towards these things. It's human nature. That's why it's important to choose the right things to measure and to put effort into actually measuring them. Entrepreneur rule number 8, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. If you set goals and then you consistently meet those goals, you start to believe your goals. And as a result, when you set a new goal, you know you're going to achieve it. So in a way, that's like seeing the future because you know what's going to happen. And as an entrepreneur, if you're proactive about clarifying opportunities and trends, identifying them, creativity and innovation will follow, and you will be able to set trends within your industry by inventing the future. It's about being the one who sets the trends rather than one who follows them. Entrepreneur rule number 9, culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is some more Peter Drucker wisdom. It's important to have a clear strategy in place for your business, but it's equally important to have a strong company culture. Culture is defined as shared values, customs, behaviors, and artifacts to a group or organization. Culture is behavior that makes your company. Even if you don't have the best strategy in place, your company culture is what is most important for success. Entrepreneur rule number 10, your culture is your brand. This is from the late great CEO of Zappos, Tony Hsieh. Your company culture is the essence of who you are as a business, and it plays a crucial role in shaping your brand. Your brand is more than, your logo, your slogan. It's the perceptions and feelings that customers and employees have about your business. A strong company culture and a positive brand image can attract customers who align with your values. When you're authentic, when your culture is well defined, it's a powerful tool for differentiating your business from the competitors. On the other hand, if your culture is weak or inconsistent, it can negatively impact your brand and reputation. Remember, your culture is not just something that exists within your organization, it's something that is communicated to the outside world through your actions, your values, and those become your reputation. Entrepreneur rule number 11, practice vertical integration. Okay, now that we've had our coffee, can we talk about vertical integration? Vertical integration is a business strategy pioneered by people like John D. Rockefeller and Henry Ford, where various stages of production are combined into one company. So, for example, Henry Ford owned a railroad, a coal mine, a glass factory, all these things that went into making cars so that instead of paying a bunch of different suppliers, he could keep it all within his company and maybe even make money on that process itself. Now, I think that content creation is the modern day virtual integration for services business. So if you create content like this, you're saving money on marketers and paid advertising. And if you monetize your content, you're even making money on the process itself. Don't worry, I'm parked, by the way. Entrepreneur rule number 12, build an MVP. In the book, The Lean Startup, Eric Ries, the author, makes an analogy about starting a business where he says it should be more like driving a car and less like launching a rocket ship. So when you launch a rocket, everything must be planned and calculated and calibrated beforehand, and any errors at launch can lead to catastrophic results thousands of miles away. But when driving a car, you don't know exactly what obstacles and issues will arise, but the car is equipped with a steering wheel, so you can navigate through these challenges and adapt as you go. So in your business, if you focus on creating the capacity for decision-making and course adjustments, then you can build a minimum viable product, or MVP, test it, tweak it, and iterate. Adjust your course accordingly, just like driving a car. Entrepreneur rule number 13, first, get the right people on the bus. This is the first in a series I'm doing about a book that changed my life and my business called Good to Great by Jim Collins. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of this, I think, pretty amazing book. So one of the rules that the book gives us is first, you have to get the right people on the bus. Then you decide where to drive it. In other words, first who, then what. Great vision without great people is irrelevant. Entrepreneur rule number 14, value relationships. Happy Valentine's Day. So what better day to talk about relationships? Now, obviously relationships are central to everything you do in life and in business, but what makes for a great relationship? Jim Collins once asked his mentor this question, and the mentor says, a really great relationship is one where if you ask each person independently who benefits more from the relationship, they would each say, well, I do. And that's not really a selfish way to look at it, because the reason both people can answer that way is because both people are putting into the relationship. They're not just taking from it. Entrepreneur rule number 15, good is the enemy of great. When things are going well, complacency has a tendency to set in. If things are horrible, you know you have to change. But if things are fine, you may never feel that push to improve. So taking an inventory of your business. If things are good enough, just ask yourself if that really is good enough. Jim Collins says, the moment you first realize that you have the potential to do something great is a defining moment in your life. Entrepreneur rule number 16, have a BHAG. When setting goals for your business, you gotta aim high. A BHAG, or a big, hairy, audacious goal, is a long-term goal that is so ambitious it may seem impossible at first. But that's the point. Having a BHAG gives your team something to strive for, something to work towards that's bigger than just meeting quarterly targets or hitting annual sales goals. It might not be your current core competency as a business. That's interesting. Rather, it's like, think hard about this. It's something that you believe someday your business can do better than any other business out there. A BHAG gives your team a sense of purpose and sets the stage for innovation and breakthrough thinking. So set a goal that will push you and your team out of your comfort zone and never stop striving to achieve it. Entrepreneur rule number 7, be a hedgehog. In his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins discusses the old Greek parable, the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. In other words, the fox hunts the hedgehog through all sorts of clever gambits, but the hedgehog survives by doing one thing and one thing only, getting away from foxes. Similarly, if you're able to focus on one core thing and be great at it, you'll survive and you'll thrive. A company must identify its one core thing and build its strategy around it. You have to be passionate about what you can be the best in the world at, and your company will create a culture and a brand that is unique and differentiated from its competitors. Entrepreneur rule 18, be a level 5 leader. Being a level 5 leader is a concept introduced by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. A level 5 leader is someone who is both humble and driven, someone who focuses on building a strong team and a sustainable company rather than seeking personal fame or fortune. They possess a fierce determination to do whatever it takes to make their company succeed, but they also have the humility to acknowledge their own weaknesses and surround themselves with people who can compensate for them. Level 5 leaders also have the ability to look out for the best interest of the company over their own and have a long-term focus. They are the ones who lead their companies to greatness. Entrepreneur rule number 19, focus on the flywheel. So this rule is all about the power of consistent cumulative progress. In his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins also introduces the concept of the flywheel, which represents the idea that small incremental improvements over time can lead to significant results. So in real life, a flywheel is a large, heavy wheel that takes a lot of effort to get moving, but once it's spinning, it becomes easier and easier to keep it going. The same is true of your business. Focusing on consistent small improvements to your product, your customer service, your operations will lead to a powerful momentum that will propel your company forward. This is why it's important to focus on the flywheel and not just short-term gains. So focus on the flywheel, and that can lead to significant outcomes. Entrepreneur rule 20, leverage technology. As Jim Collins says in his book, Good to Great, check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Technology can be a powerful tool for a business, but not a silver bullet. The key is to find a way to leverage technology in a way that amplifies your strengths rather than trying to compensate for your weaknesses. The most successful companies in the book were able to identify the key technologies that would have the most impact on their business, and then they invested heavily in those areas. They understood that technology alone couldn't make them great, but when combined with a strong strategy and culture, it could be a game changer. So find the technology that will help you achieve your goals and focus on it. Entrepreneur rule 21, practice the Stockdale paradox. I love this one. This is about facing harsh facts, but committing to prevail in the end. It's a concept named after Admiral James Stockdale, the highest-ranking U.S. military officer in the Hanoi Hilton prisoner of war camp during the Vietnam War. In an interview with Jim Collins, Stockdale said the people who fared the worst in the camp were the ones he called optimists, people who kept believing better circumstances were right around the corner. But the people who succeeded in making it out were the ones who could face their harsh reality on the one hand, but were still committed to getting out no matter what. Stockdale said, quote, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be." That's the Stockdale paradox. Entrepreneur rule 22, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. Jim Collins, in his book, Good to Great, emphasizes the importance of having a strong leader who is not only focused on their own success, but also the success of their team. Being a leader means being a servant to your team, making sure they have the resources and support they need. A true leader is one who puts the needs of their team before their own. And in doing so, that leader creates a culture of success and achievement. So be a servant leader. Entrepreneur rule 23, suspend disbelief. We're doing a few about Steve Jobs in honor of his birthday on February 24th. The first rule is sometimes you got to suspend disbelief. When Jobs' team was working on creating a graphical user interface for the first Macintosh, he had seen a demonstration of Xerox's GUI, which he thought had overlapping windows on the screen. He told his team that Xerox had accomplished this feat, which was considered impossible at the time. So impossible as it may have seemed before Xerox, the Macintosh team figured out overlapping windows too. Only one thing, it wasn't true. Xerox had actually not figured out how to make windows overlap on a screen, but it was the belief that it could be done that inspired the Macintosh team to accomplish the seemingly impossible. That's the old reality distortion field. Entrepreneur rule 24, push the human race forward. It's February 24th today, the birthday of Steve Jobs. I read that even though an ad team wrote the script for the famous Think Different commercial, Steve Jobs personally wrote the line, "They push the human race forward." And that was seen as him in a nutshell. It's such an over-the-top, audacious ambition, but it sums up what Steve Jobs always tried to do, to apply his sheer will to pushing his teams, his companies, his industries forward. If you're not trying to do that, you might not be thinking big enough. Entrepreneur rule 25 is commit to simplicity. In the book Insanely Simple, author and former Apple ad agency creative director Ken Siegel says that the key to Steve Jobs' success at Apple was his love of simplicity. Simplicity can move mountains. So as an entrepreneur, think about your systems, your processes, your products, your finances, your marketing. Where can you edit? Where can you replace complexity with simplicity? If you commit to ruthlessly editing out complexity, you'll improve the clarity, efficiency, and mission alignment of your business. Entrepreneur rule number 26, strive to be a level 5 organization. I love this. This is not Jim Collins' level 5 leader concept. This is a different framework called tribal leadership. Each level represents the outlook and feelings of people within your company. So level 1, life sucks. This probably isn't you. It's more like terrorist cells. Level 2, my life sucks. Think bureaucracy, demeaning bosses, lack of purpose. Level 3, I'm great and you're not. This is the attitude of a lot of lawyers at their law firms, frankly. Level 4, we're great and they're not. If you can get to this level, that's pretty good. You're all on one team fighting your rivals. But the highest level is level 5. Life is great. So for example, employees of a level 5 pharmaceutical company were asked, who's your biggest rival? And instead of naming other pharmaceutical companies, the employees said, cancer. That's a level 5 organization. Entrepreneur Rule 27, create uncontested market space. This week is about the book Blue Ocean Strategy. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. So the first rule from that book is create uncontested market space. This means finding an area that is not currently being served by competitors and creating a new market there. By doing this, you can avoid the intense competition of existing markets and create a unique offering that stands out. You can do this by looking at your industry in a new way, identifying areas that have been overlooked by competitors. By creating uncontested market space, you can create a business that is not only profitable, but is also sustainable in the long term. Entrepreneur Rule 28, proactive value innovation. To stand out in a crowded market, you must proactively innovate and create value for your customers. This means continuously looking for new ways to improve your product or service and finding unique solutions to the problems your customers face. But the key is to focus on creating value, not just cost cutting. By creating value for your customers, you can differentiate yourself from your competitors and create a blue ocean of uncontested market space. This is what the book Blue Ocean Strategy, check out the channel for a full review and synopsis, calls value innovation. Rule 29, eliminate, reduce, raise, create. To create a blue ocean, check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Take a 4-pronged approach. Eliminate aspects of your industry that are unnecessary. Reduce those that are less important. Raise those that are important to a new higher standard, and create new elements within your industry that are unique to you. This is how you accomplish proactive value innovation, and it's what sets successful businesses apart from their competitors. By focusing on these 4 areas, you can create a market that is uniquely yours. Entrepreneur Rule 30, look beyond your industry. So to create a blue ocean, you can't just focus on what's happening within your industry. Instead, you need to look beyond and think about what's happening in other industries, how you can apply those ideas to your own. For example, look at how much success tech companies have had by drawing on services industries to create the new software as a service model. Also, personally, my law firm benefits from modeling much of what we do on successful tech companies. So by studying different markets, you can find new ways to innovate and create value that you and your competitors haven't thought of yet. Take inspiration from other industries and find ways to adapt their strategies and tactics to your own market. And entrepreneur rule number 31 is make competition irrelevant. So to be successful as an entrepreneur, it's important to not get too caught up in what your competitors are doing in your industry. Instead, look beyond your industry for inspiration and new ideas. This is what's known as looking over the fence in the book Blue Ocean Strategy. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. This way you can find new opportunities and create a unique value proposition that sets you apart from your competition. So by looking beyond your industry, you find untapped markets, you create your blue ocean for your business to thrive in, because the best way to stay ahead of the competition is to not compete with them at all. Entrepreneur Rule 32, confidence comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. Really, confidence is about trust. It's trust in yourself. Whether you're committing to a daily exercise routine, setting a sales goal, dedicating a time to networking and learning, keeping those promises helps build self-confidence and trust in yourself. Being an entrepreneur is a journey, and staying true to your word is a crucial step in reaching your goals. When you make a promise to yourself and you stick to it, you start to believe that you'll do the same thing the next time and the next time. And then you'll just start thinking of yourself as being a person who does that every time. Entrepreneur Rule 33, acknowledge the imposter syndrome goblin. Check out my channel for a, no joke, a cartoon that I made about this whole thing. We all experience some level of the imposter phenomenon. It's just a product of the human brain and human evolution. It's a relic of a time where we humans really did have to know our limits so that we wouldn't try to, fist fight a saber-toothed tiger. But as society developed, the part of our brain still misinterprets, stressful emails and things like that as being saber-toothed tiger level threats. So I think it helps to kind of personify the concept as a little goblin trying to keep you cautious and scared, because acknowledging the imposter syndrome goblin helps you step back and realize that the messages it's telling you aren't necessarily true. Entrepreneur Rule 34, have a growth mindset. This concept, popularized by researcher and author Dr. Angela Duckworth in her book Grit, suggests that success is not determined by innate talent or intelligence, but rather by a willingness to learn and grow. A growth mindset means embracing challenges and viewing failures as opportunities for growth and development. It means being open to feedback and taking risks rather than fearing them. In other words, people with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence is fixed, while people with a growth mindset believe that intelligence can be developed. It's also a great way to beat imposter syndrome, because a growth mindset can change the feeling of I can't do this to a feeling of I can learn to do this. Okay, let's go outside. Entrepreneur Rule 35, play an infinite game. Okay, so before I do all of the sports metaphors I'm about to do, first a little word of caution, a clarification. Not everything in business is like sports. In the book Infinite Game, author Simon Sinek explains the importance of playing an infinite game. So a finite game is a competition with a clear endpoint and a winner and a loser, whereas an infinite game is a never-ending pursuit of progress and improvement. So as an entrepreneur, you should strive to play the infinite game, focusing on building a lasting and sustainable business rather than just winning short-term battles. This will help you build a resilient and adaptable business that can thrive in the long term. Okay, now for some sports metaphors. There we go. Entrepreneur Rule 36, just do it. This is one of the most famous and simplest ideas ever. It's a Nike slogan, but it's true and it's powerful. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people planning, wheels spinning, getting lost in preparation, suffering paralysis by analysis. But all these things at their core are just ways of hiding. Sometimes you just got to get out there and do it. Pick up the phone, publish the video, hit send on the newsletter, whatever. Just do it. Entrepreneur Rule 37, be kind to yourself. So it's March 9th, and my message to you is be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would talk to a teammate. Be a positive teammate to yourself. You wouldn't browbeat a teammate. You wouldn't call them stupid or a failure. You'd lift them up. You'd encourage them. So do the same thing for yourself. Practice positive self-talk. Be a good teammate to yourself. Entrepreneur Rule number 38, be hyper competitive. Okay, I'm doing a series on the book The Captain Class by Sam Walker. So this guy did a comprehensive scientific study of the best sports teams in history, and what he found was that they all had great team captains. That's what they had in common, and all these great captains had common characteristics. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. The first characteristic, be hyper competitive. That doesn't mean you focus on your competitors, on making everything a zero-sum game. Rather, he writes, hyper competitive means always looking for the next challenge, the next opponent, the next frontier, and the best leaders have that quality. Entrepreneur Rule number 39, be relentless. This is another characteristic on the best leaders and team captains from the book The Captain Class by Sam Walker. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Being relentless means that you never give up. You never stop pushing yourself and your team to be their best. The most successful leaders are those who are determined to see their vision through no matter what obstacles they face. They never let setbacks defeat them. They never lose sight of their goal, and they never waver in their commitment to the team. It doesn't mean you never feel down or discouraged. It just means that you keep going. Entrepreneur Rule number 40, be unconventional. This is another characteristic from the book The Captain Class by Sam Walker. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Being unconventional means that you're not afraid to think outside the box and break the mold. The most successful leaders are those who are not afraid to take risks and try new things. So in the captain class, these leaders didn't follow the status quo. They didn't play by the traditional, at least the unwritten rules. And they did what they thought was best for the team. And they succeeded because of it. Entrepreneur rule number 41, be stubborn. This is another characteristic of the best leaders and team captains from the book The Captain Class by Sam Walker. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Be stubborn within reason. Being stubborn means that you're not easily swayed by others' opinions. The most successful leaders are those who know what they want and they go for it, even when others say it's impossible. So in the captain class, the best leaders had a clear vision for their team and they stuck to it no matter what others said. They were determined to succeed, and they did. Entrepreneur rule number 42, be selfless. This is another characteristic of the best leaders and team captains from the book The Captain Class. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Being selfless means putting the needs of the team before your own. The most successful leaders are those who put their team's needs first and make sacrifices for the greater good. In the captain class, the most successful leaders put the needs of their team before their own. They were always willing to make sacrifices for the greater good. They were the type of teammates carrying the bags into the hotel, and they were respected and loved by their teammates because of it. Entrepreneur rule 43, be paranoid. This is another characteristic of the best leaders and team captains from the book The Captain Class by Sam Walker. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Being paranoid. In this context, Andy Grove also has a book about it. It means always being on the lookout for potential threats. The most successful leaders are those who anticipate problems and take steps to prevent them. So in the captain class, the best leaders were never complacent. They were always prepared for the worst. And of course, they were successful because of it. Entrepreneur rule number 44, be driven by a personal mission to win. Being driven by a personal mission to win is a key trait of successful team captains, according to Sam Walker. In the book, The Captain Class, check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. So it's not just about winning for the sake of winning, but having a deeper purpose, a drive that fuels your competitive spirit. These leaders are relentless in their pursuit of victory. They'll stop at nothing to achieve it. They have a single-minded focus and will not be deterred by setbacks or obstacles. Embrace this mindset in your business. Let your personal mission to win be contagious and fuel your whole team. Entrepreneur rule number 45, maximize return on luck. Happy St. Patrick's Day. So today we're talking about luck. This is a really important concept. In the book Great by Choice by Jim Collins and Morton T. Hansen, they discuss the idea of maximizing return on luck. The idea is that luck will always play a role in any business or human endeavor. But it's not just about being lucky, it's about how you handle and make the most of the luck that comes your way. It's about having a plan and being prepared for when luck strikes so that you can capitalize on it and turn it into success. As an entrepreneur, you must actively work toward maximizing the return on any luck that comes your way. Entrepreneur rule 46. This week we're talking about things we can learn from Jeff Bezos. So first, think long-term. This means setting aside short-term gains in favor of making decisions that will benefit your company in the future. Jeff Bezos has said that he always makes decisions with a horizon of at least 5 to 7 years in mind, and often much longer. And this is from a person who has always had to answer to investors on a quarterly basis, yet he is always committed to long-term thinking, and obviously it has paid off, so you can do it too. Thinking long-term will help your company thrive in the long run. Entrepreneur rule 47, be willing to be misunderstood. So Jeff Bezos believes that it's only by being willing to be misunderstood that you can have a major innovative impact on the world. You must be willing to be misunderstood even for long periods of time. Being misunderstood means that you're pushing boundaries and thinking differently from everyone else. It's a sign that you're on the right track and that you're doing something unique and valuable. So don't be afraid to be misunderstood. It could be a sign that you're doing something great. Entrepreneur Rule 48, be frugal. So this is a story from the Everything Store by Brad Stone. There's a story about Jeff Bezos visiting one of Amazon's warehouses and noticing that a TV had been mounted on the wall. He asked one of his executives how much the TV cost, and the guy said a few $100. Then Jeff Bezos takes the TV off the wall and walks out with it, saying that the cost of the TV could be used to pay for more important things. We're returning the TV and using the money for customer service or faster delivery. So yeah, he's a pretty frugal guy. Even with all that money, he has always remained committed to frugality. He said it drives innovation just like other constraints do, and that it's an important part of Amazon culture, so you be frugal too. Entrepreneur Rule 49, the customer always has a seat at the table. Jeff Bezos used to literally keep an empty chair at board meetings to represent the customer. The idea was to constantly remind the board and management and the team of the customer's needs and experiences and perspectives, so it was always central to all decisions. So you need to make sure that the customer's voice is always heard, even when they're not physically present. Find some way to remind yourself and make sure the customer always has a seat at the table. Entrepreneur Rule number 50, be the latter type of company. Jeff Bezos tells his team there are two types of companies: those that try to figure out how to charge their customers more, and those that try to figure out how to charge less. And he says Amazon is the latter type. Certainly, there are a lot of successful companies built on charging their customers as much as possible, particularly in the business-to-business or enterprise context. But I think that the groundbreaking companies are those that can create wealth by providing more value for less money and figure out a way to do so profitably. Entrepreneur Rule 51, it's still day one. Jeff Bezos ends every shareholder letter, and I'm guessing plenty of meetings, by saying, it's still day one at Amazon. This encourages employees and shareholders to continue thinking like a startup, remain focused on the company's mission, and not become complacent with their success. It's an attitude to stay curious, always look for opportunities to improve and grow. The idea is to keep the company's culture of experimentation and innovation alive, to prevent stagnation. So as an entrepreneur, you should always think of your business as still being in day one. Let's go outside. Entrepreneur Rule 52, steal like an artist. This is a book by Austin Kleon, and it has a lot of cool illustrations and graphics. I recommend it. But it talks about the importance of inspiration, appreciating the work of others, and using it to create something new and original. It also talks about the importance of experimenting and taking risks to find your own unique voice and style. And it says embrace imperfection as a tool for creativity and self-expression. So that all goes into what he calls stealing like an artist. It doesn't mean plagiarize, it means study, remix, mash up. Creative work builds on what came before. Entrepreneur Rule 53, make something people want. So for the next 13 days, and 13 rules are all about Y Combinator. I've learned a lot from them. They have a lot of great free content, and I'm going to share some of it with you. So probably the most foundational advice from Y Combinator is make something people want. YC co-founder Paul Graham says, if you make something people want, they'll be happy. And you can translate that happiness into money. That is the basis of a startup. A startup is a company that builds some kind of technology that people want. The mistake a lot of founders make is to build something they think users want, but that users don't actually want. He says it's fundamentally about being empirical and not assuming that you already have all the answers. Launch again and again and again. Another bit of change of plans. So I'm doing these 100 entrepreneur rules in 100 days, and I'm filming all 100 videos in one day. Entrepreneur Rule 54, launch again and again. Another bit of Y Combinator advice that I love is from a startup school presentation by Y Combinator partner Kat Manyalik. She says, I want you to stop thinking about launching as this one moment in time. I don't want you to spend all your time getting ready for this one big day, this one big launch day that you're trying to line up all these things for. This is something that is a continuous process that you can do over the course of the next few months and well into the life cycle of your company. She says, always be shipping. A, always, BB, as shipping, always be shipping. Think of launching as something you continually do. Entrepreneur Rule 55, do more with less. Sam Altman, who was an alum and the former president of Y Combinator and is now CEO of OpenAI, once said, the most successful entrepreneurs I know are all very good at making things happen with very little resources. So obviously this is important in your early days, but think of how valuable this skill could become as you grow. So if you can do more with less, it'll mean every bit of investment money, every bit of revenue you ever earn will go farther. So in the beginning, it's a matter of survival, but even as you grow, it's a force multiplier. Entrepreneur Rule 56, write code or its equivalent and talk to users. This is another piece of fundamental Y Combinator advice. I say or its equivalent because maybe your business doesn't have anything to do with coding. Not all businesses do, but the equivalent would be whatever craft is at the core of your business. Y Combinator says you must launch something, talk to your users to see if it serves their needs, and then take their feedback and iterate. These tasks should occupy almost all of your time and focus. For great companies, this cycle never ends. For companies that fail, they become distracted, they focus on fake work, and they do things that are maybe more fun but less valuable to the business. This rule is all about focus, and it's simple: write code or its equivalent and talk to users. Entrepreneur Rule 57, obsess over one key metric. This is from an essay called Startup Priorities by former Y Combinator president Jeff Ralston. He writes, quote, usually my answer to founder questions such as how should I be spending my time is spectacularly simple. Choose one key metric to track and focus exclusively on making that metric grow. When deciding what to do, choose the activity that you believe will directly result in increased growth of your one chosen metric. And my own 2 cents on this is that for 99 out of 100 companies, the key metric you should choose is either revenue or profit. Beware vanity metrics. Revenue and profit tell you a lot. It doesn't have to be complicated. Entrepreneur Rule 58, a small group of customers who love you is better than a large group of customers who kind of like you. So if you have 10 to 100 raving fans, people who will promote you, recommend you, cheer for your success, that's a much stronger indicator that you're really onto something. If you have more customers or clients, but they're lukewarm on what you have to offer, it's a sign that others will be lukewarm as well. But even 10 to 100 raving fans are a sign that others will love what you have to offer, and you have strong potential for growth. Entrepreneur Rule 59, enchanting quality. There is a Y Combinator Startup School video I love called How to Build Products Users Love with Kevin Hale. It's from 2014, available on YouTube. And in that video, startup founder and former YC partner Kevin Hale talks about this Japanese concept of there being 2 different types of quality. There's atarime hinshitsu, which means taken for granted quality or just basic functionality. And then there's myoryoku-teki hinshitsu, which means enchanting quality. So this is the idea that your product or service should have an aesthetic or delightful quality that can captivate customers somehow. You're not just doing the bare functional minimum, but rather you're creating these little moments of magic or enchantment for your customers. So whether you're in a product or services business, enchanting quality is something to always strive to achieve. I love that one. Entrepreneur Rule 60. On this April Fool's Day, don't be fooled by fake progress. This is from a startup school lecture by former Y Combinator partner Adora Chung. She says it's important to make a clear distinction between real and fake startup progress. Fake startup progress is when founders focus on things that are not directly related to growing your primary metric. Things like attending conferences or focusing on winning awards or press or other vanity metrics. You may convince yourself these are good things to focus on, but the goal is not to optimize startup vanity. The goal is to deliver value to your customer and to do the things that will help you directly improve your key metric. Entrepreneur Rule 61, fundraising is not success. This is from an article by Y Combinator partner and multi-time co-founder Michael Seibel called Fundraising Rounds Are Not Milestones. He writes, quote, "Success isn't the same as raising a round of financing. Quite the opposite. Raising a round should be a byproduct of success. Using fundraising itself as a benchmark is dangerous for the entire community because it encourages a culture of optimizing for short-term showmanship instead of making something people want and creating lasting value. A financing round is not a milestone. It is literally just cash. Sometimes it goes to great companies. Sometimes it goes to bad companies. Sometimes it's given for good reasons. Sometimes the investors wish they could just take it all back. The best early stage founders focus on staying lean, talking to their customers, iterating on their product, and discovering product market fit." Entrepreneur Rule 62, maximize opportunities for luck. This is from a startup school lecture by Y Combinator partner Dalton Caldwell called How to Create Luck. And this is one that's had a big impact on me. He says, quote, "The way to create luck is to move much faster than everyone else and to give yourself as many opportunities for that lucky thing to happen to you. If you're a startup that moves really fast, it gives you more opportunities to talk to customers, to change your idea more often, to write code more quickly. Everything gets way easier if you move much faster. The founders that get the quote-unquote luckiest are actually the founders that move the fastest to give themselves as much surface area as possible to get super lucky. So give yourself more opportunities for that luck event to happen to you. And then remember to maximize your return on luck. Cough, Rule 45. Entrepreneur Rule 63, think like a hacker. So there's a question in the application for the Y Combinator Accelerator program. When have you most successfully hacked a non-computer system to your advantage? So the question is designed to test for creativity, resourcefulness, the ability to think outside the box, to take an unconventional approach to solving a problem, to find workarounds. In other words, to think like a hacker. In the book, The Launchpad by Randall Strauss, I read that the best answer to this question was some guy, when he was 6 years old, tested whether the tooth fairy was real by losing a tooth and then not telling anyone, and then waiting to see if the tooth fairy actually came that night. So that's a great example of thinking like a hacker, but I'm not going to tell you whether the tooth fairy actually came. Entrepreneur Rule 64. Do things that don't scale. Paul Graham famously encourages founders to do the things that don't scale. Things like recruiting individual users, talking to individual users, or focusing on a deliberately narrow market when you're getting started. He says, not only is this a necessary evil to get your startup off the ground, but in the best case, it also becomes part of your company's DNA going forward. Quote, if you have to be aggressive about user acquisition when you're small, you'll probably still be aggressive when you're big. If you have to manufacture your own hardware or use your own software on your users' behalf, you'll learn things that you couldn't have learned otherwise. And most importantly, if you have to work hard to delight users when you only have a handful of them, you'll keep doing it when you have a lot. Entrepreneur Rule 65, determination is the most important factor. Paul Graham says that when he and his co-founders started Y Combinator, they learned quickly that the most important predictor of success is determination. Quote, at first, we thought it might be intelligence. Everyone likes to believe that's what makes startups succeed. It makes a better story that a company won because its founders were so smart. But while it certainly helps to be smart, it's not the deciding factor. He says, as long as you're over a certain threshold of intelligence, what matters most is determination. You're going to hit a lot of obstacles, no matter what. You can't be the sort of person who gets demoralized easily. Talent is overrated compared to determination. Okay, I'm going to be gone for Easter weekend, but I'll be back with more rules on Monday. We're back. Entrepreneur Rule 66, be proactive. All right, this week we're featuring the famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. My mom tried to force this book on me when I was little, and of course I resisted, but then I read it as an adult, and I was like, oh, okay, actually there's a bunch of really good stuff in here. So here it is. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of the book. Each day this week in these shorts, we'll explore one of the 7 habits. Today, be proactive. This habit is all about taking initiative and taking control of your life. It means being responsible for your own actions and choices and not just reacting to external circumstances or other people. It's about being proactive and taking the first step towards achieving your goals. Entrepreneur Rule 67, begin with the end in mind. This is the second of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Beginning with the end in mind. It's about setting clear, specific, and measurable goals for yourself and then working backwards to figure out the steps you need to take to achieve those goals. It's about having a clear vision of what you want to achieve and then taking the necessary actions to make it happen. Entrepreneur Rule 68, put first things first. This is the third of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of that book. Putting first things first. It's about prioritizing your time and energy on the most important things in your life. It means focusing on the things that actually matter to you and will bring you the most happiness and fulfillment. It means putting first things first, not getting bogged down with unimportant or distracting tasks. Okay, Entrepreneur Rule 69 is think win-win. This is the 4th of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Thinking win-win is about creating mutually beneficial solutions in your relationships and your interactions with others. It means finding a way to achieve your goals while also helping others achieve theirs. It's about looking for solutions that benefit both parties rather than competing or trying to come out ahead at the expense of others. Entrepreneur Rule 70. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is the 5th of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of that book. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's about listening and communicating effectively with others. It means actually taking the time to understand the other person's perspective and point of view before trying to express your own or come up with solutions. It's about creating deeper, more meaningful connections with others, and it's actually a phrase borrowed from the prayer of St. Francis. So, like all of these habits, this skill will help you improve your relationships, your personal performance, and in turn, it'll help you improve your business. Entrepreneur Rule 71, synergize. This is the 6th of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of that book. Synergy is really about recognizing the strengths of others and using them to create a greater whole. It means finding ways to combine different perspectives and ideas to achieve a better outcome than can be achieved alone. You can synergize between individuals within your company or divisions of your company. Examples would include a great band where each instrument contributes to making something better than the sum of its parts. Or in business, could be mergers or geographical expansions that are mutually beneficial and add to a greater whole. Entrepreneur Rule 72, sharpen the saw. This is the 7th and final of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of that book. Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." So it's essentially about taking care of not just the axe or the saw, but of yourself and making sure you are in the best condition possible before you get to work. Sharpening the saw is about making sure you're at your best both physically and mentally. You're taking the time to rest, to exercise, to eat well, and to continue learning, growing, and developing your skills. It's about maintaining balance and renewal in all aspects of your life so that you can perform your best and achieve your goals. Entrepreneur Rule 73, think neutral. This is from the books It Takes What It Takes and Getting to Neutral by Trevor Moawad. He was a sports performance coach for some of the best sports programs and some of the world's greatest athletes before he tragically passed away too soon. He says, there really isn't any guarantee that thinking positively works, But we do know that thinking negatively works, meaning it works to make you fail. So think neutral. That means not being too high, not getting too low, just being realistic, understanding your emotions, your present situation, and what needs to be done to improve it. Think neutral. Entrepreneur Rule 74, root out limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are the negative thoughts that hold us back from achieving our goals. You may not even realize that you haven't, but they can manifest in a lot of ways. Self-doubt, procrastination, lack of motivation. So to succeed, you need to identify and then overcome these limiting beliefs. A great way to identify them is just to question your thoughts and beliefs. Like, what do you believe are the limits to your future success? And then, are these beliefs based on facts or assumptions? Are these beliefs holding you back, or are they serving you? And then once you identify the limiting beliefs, you can replace them with more positive and empowering thoughts. For example, you can visualize your success, like really picture it. What will it look like when you succeed? That's an important tool both for planning, but also for overcoming limiting beliefs. Rule 75, root out shame. So like many people, it wasn't until I read Brene Brown's books that I realized what a large role shame plays in our lives. And then I started looking around and other lawyers, other business leaders, and I started to recognize that it really is driving people like all the time. Even the most intimidating people, maybe especially the most intimidating people, are often driven by shame and fear. And in fact, that might be why they're so mean. And these are just defense mechanisms to cover up the fear and shame. So Brene Brown says the way to deal with shame is to recognize it. That's a really big first step. And then to be willing to be vulnerable. She says vulnerability is not about oversharing and being weird. It's about being willing to accept uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Entrepreneur Rule 76, lead with courage. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act in the face of fear. As an entrepreneur, you have to have the courage to take action even when it's difficult. And you can feel discouraged, that's okay, but you can't succumb to that feeling. Leading with courage means having the determination to see your ideas through, to take risks, and to not let fear hold you back. The measure of success is not avoiding failure, it's having the courage to try. Entrepreneur Rule 77, lead with empathy. One of the most important qualities of a great leader is the ability to understand and relate to others. Brene Brown says, empathy is feeling with people. It's not just about being nice, it's about connecting with people's emotions and experiences. So as an entrepreneur, it's crucial to lead with empathy so that you can connect with your team, with your customers, and even the public. It helps you to understand their needs and to make better decisions as a result for your business. Empathy is what sets great leaders apart oftentimes, and it's essential for building a successful business. Entrepreneur Rule 78, be consistent. Small, consistent actions lead to big results over time. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we need to make big, drastic changes to achieve success, but the truth is that it's the small daily habits that make the biggest impact. Darren Hardy talks about this in his book, The Compound Effect. By being consistent in your actions, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. So it's as true in your business as it is in your health and your personal life and your savings and everything else. When you're consistent as a leader, also your team will know that they can rely on you. So make a plan and stick to it. Rule 79, be clear. I think clarity is one of the most underrated leadership principles or characteristics. It's not enough to set a vision for your company because the vision might be too general or too vague. The vision you set has to be clear. What's more, you have to communicate the vision to your team and maybe even your customers and the public with clarity. If your thoughts aren't clear, or if your vision isn't clear, or if your words aren't clear, no one will follow you because they'll have no idea where you're going. Entrepreneur Rule 80, be self-aware. They say self-awareness is the capacity for introspection and the ability to recognize oneself as an individual separate from the environment and other individuals. But Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence, says self-awareness is the key to emotional intelligence and it's the foundation for all the other emotional skills. So being self-aware means being able to understand and recognize your own thoughts, your own feelings, and how those things manifest themselves in your behavior. It's about gaining a better understanding of what drives you and what holds you back, and making necessary adjustments to improve and grow as a person, as an entrepreneur, and just getting out of your head a little bit. Entrepreneur Rule 81, be so good they can't ignore you. So this is actually from Steve Martin originally, although I've heard it used by Mark Andreessen as an example of how to raise venture capital money. So a young comedian came to Steve Martin and said, can you give me some advice? How do I break into this industry? How do I get an agent? How do I get a manager? How do I get booked at the best clubs? All that. Steve Martin's advice, just focus on your craft. Be so good they can't ignore you. And with the efficiency of disseminating information these days in modern society, I think it's especially true. Just focus on your craft. Be so good they can't ignore you. Entrepreneur Rule 82, use your unfair advantage. This means identifying the unique skills and strengths you have that others don't and using them to your advantage. So it's about recognizing that everyone has something. Everyone has something. An unfair advantage that sets them apart. And then you use that. So your unfair advantage could be your experience in a certain industry, your unique skills or talents, or even it could be your network of connections. But the hard part can be finding it. Seth Godin says your unfair advantage is often hiding in plain sight, buried in your life experiences, your passions, your quirks. So you got to find it, and then once you find it, use it as much as you can. Rule 83, foster psychological safety. Psychological safety is the belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. When individuals feel safe to share their thoughts and ideas, it leads to more creativity and innovation within a team. According to the book The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, great book, psychological safety is crucial for building a successful team or organization. So as a leader, you should create an environment where your people feel comfortable to speak up, share their ideas, and take risks without fear of humiliation or undue negative consequences. Entrepreneur Rule 84, blocking and tackling. So today is NFL draft day, so we're going to do one more sports metaphor. Now, if you grew up a Broncos fan in the 80s and 90s like I did, anyone? You believe in the Shanahan system, which is that everything flows from the strength of the offensive line. So it's all about the line of scrimmage. Coaches keep putting their own spin on this offense. It's considered kind of like an innovative offense, but really it's all about fundamentals, blocking and tackling. And business is the same way. You can do all the fancy trick plays you want, twirl around in the huddle or different, whatever. But you will never win without being able to block and tackle. Focusing on effort and fundamentals. The things that aren't splashy, that don't make the highlight reel, but that lead to results. And that's why I believe in blocking and tackling in business and in life and in football. Entrepreneur Rule 85, be versatile. These next 3 rules are from the book Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World by David Epstein. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis of the book. I love this book because there's so much advice and pressure out there these days to specialize. And that's just never really worked for me. So the first point of the book Range is be versatile. Epstein argues that versatility is crucial for success because it allows people to adapt to different situations and to learn new skills quickly. So this is especially important in our rapidly changing modern society. Versatility can help entrepreneurs stay ahead of the curve and be more resilient when they face obstacles in their business. Entrepreneur Rule 86, embrace uncertainty. This is also from the book Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World by David Epstein. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis. Epstein argues that today's world is characterized by constant change and unpredictability, and those who are able to navigate uncertainty are more likely to succeed. He encourages people to be open to new experiences and be flexible and not be afraid to try new things. Epstein talks about how companies like Amazon, Google, and Netflix are able to thrive in a rapidly changing market by embracing uncertainty and being willing to pivot when necessary. He even talks about how Navy SEALs are trained to operate in uncertain and rapidly changing environments, which leads them to become adaptable and reliable regardless of the external circumstances. Entrepreneur Rule 87, be multidisciplinary. This is also from the book Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World by David Epstein. Check out my channel for a full review and synopsis, but this is a really interesting one. So be multidisciplinary. Epstein argues that as the world becomes more complex, the abilities that are most valued are those that involve the ability to integrate and apply information from multiple domains. But here's the really interesting part. He talks about something called the Flynn effect, which is that average IQ rates raise over time. So apparently somebody with average intelligence now would have been in the top 2% of IQ scores in 1920. Epstein argues that this is driven by the fact that people today are exposed to, at least in part by the fact that people today are exposed to more multidisciplinary information than ever before, and as a result, they're required to think more critically, creatively, and holistically. Entrepreneur Rule 88, diversity is a strength. This is as true in business as it is in society, as it is in the military, as it is in nature. In nature, biodiversity creates stronger systems. In the military context, one example I always think about is the code talkers in World Wars I and II, who used a combination of various Native American languages to create the only codes that our enemies couldn't crack. We would not have had that strength without diversity, and the same is true in business. When you have diversity, you have different perspectives, unique insights, and complementary strengths. So, seriously, even if you refuse to embrace diversity for the sake of being, a decent person, at least embrace diversity because it makes your business stronger. Entrepreneur Rule 89, build in public. Building in public means being transparent and sharing your progress and struggles with others. It's about being open and honest about your journey as an entrepreneur. So if you do this, you're not only holding yourself accountable, but you're also creating a community of people who are interested in your success and can offer support and advice. This can help you stay motivated, gain valuable feedback, and build relationships that can help your business grow. It can also help you establish your brand, establish yourself as an expert, and even help you attract new customers. So building in public can be a powerful tool for you personally and for your business. Entrepreneur Rule number 90, focus on 1% improvements. There's a parable Ali Abdaal talks about on some of his YouTube videos, a pottery teacher. So the pottery teacher separates his class into two groups. He gives each group 30 days to work on pottery. For the first group, the teacher says, you get to spend the entire 30 days working on just one pot. But for the second group, you guys have to make a pot every day for 30 days. So at the end of the 30 days, the pot that the second group made in one day on their 30th day was way better than the pot that the first group spent the entire month working on. Point being, focus on iterating with marginal improvements as many times as you can, and that's the way to make huge gains over time. Entrepreneur Rule 91, never give up. In the book How I Built This by Guy Raz, based on his famous podcast interviewing founders, there's a kind of funny but also just very on point passage where he says, what all of these entrepreneurs have in common is that there inevitably comes a time in each of their businesses when they really should quit. Like any rational person would quit at that point. But of course, the successful ones don't quit. It's an irrational decision. But in fact, starting the business was an irrational decision in the first place. So the same irrationality that led them to become founders helps them persevere when times get tough. So like every founder who's ever really made it, if you want to succeed, you cannot quit. Entrepreneur Rule number 92, obsession is mandatory. So think of a computer. You have it perform a task, and then you might switch a window, have it perform a different computing task while it's working on it. But the computer never stops working on that first task in the background. And the same is true of being an entrepreneur. It really needs to be close to mind at all times. You have to have that program running in the background so that an idea or a solution to a problem can come to you while you're driving or showering or sleeping. This isn't just a job. Obsession is required. Okay, so that's 92 out of 100 rules, all filmed in one day. I'm going to go home now and film the final 8. Entrepreneur rule 93. Know your money. Understand your books. Understand where the money goes. John D. Rockefeller was famous for this. Even when his business was huge, there were stories about him walking around the accounting department and, seeing some accountant's ledger and instantly saying, oh, this line item is wrong, and he'd make his son even carry around a little ledger book, even when he'd go on dates in college and the girls would go back to their friends, I went on a date with John D. Rockefeller Jr. and he took me to the soda fountain and wrote it down in his ledger, so that's a little weird, but you get the point. The point stands, really. It's important to know your money, have your mind on your money, and, your money on your mind. I'm not really going to drink this. Entrepreneur rule 94, reflect. Whether it's at the end of the day or the quarter or the year, look back, really take stock at how far you've come. In The Effective Executive, Peter Drucker says executives should regularly reflect on their performance and identify areas for improvement. So it is about improving and learning, but I think it's also important because it helps us fully experience and retain the journey of being entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur rule 95, be patient. This is one I really struggle with. My old mentor used to say, patience and persistence are not opposing virtues, which is to say, you need both. And it's hard because you need to move fast and you need to be relentless, but at the same time, you can't expect the results to come right away, and you have to keep pushing even when they don't. I really struggle to be patient with my business, but apparently it's a virtue and will be rewarded in the end. The other thing is patience really is important for decision making. Richard Branson says it's a competitive advantage because it gives you the time to gather the necessary information and make well-reasoned decisions, and I totally agree with that. It's just hard to be patient with the results sometimes. Entrepreneur rule 96, with or without you, energy. So it's the birthday of Bono, the lead singer of U2, and in his honor we'll do With or Without You energy. It really has nothing to do with the song. It's from the book Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. And the idea is basically don't be desperate. Give people the impression that, you don't need their sale or their business in order to succeed. Give off the vibe that, hey, I'd love to have you join me, but I will succeed with or without you. Entrepreneur rule 97, know your net promoter score, NPS. Speaking of the book Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley, my other big takeaway from that book was the importance of a business's NPS. The NPS is calculated by asking customers one simple question: how likely are you to recommend our company's products or services? On a scale of 0 to 10. So those with a score of 9 or 10 are considered promoters, 0 to 6 are detractors, and 7 to 8 are considered passives. And he considers this to be the strongest predictor of a company's future success or failure. Now, the value of NPS has been debated quite a bit, but it has at least some importance because they say promoters renew, promoters expand, promoters forgive, and promoters, promote. So even if it's not your end-all be-all, figure out a way to measure your NPS and really know it. Entrepreneur rule 98, don't hold on to the past. As important as it is to reflect, as a leader, you need to keep your eyes on the future. This is another thing Peter Drucker emphasizes, and he says the most important thing a leader can do is focus on the future. And at its root, it's really the idea of the book The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, the idea that big established companies get beaten by new companies because essentially the big old companies hold on to the past. So seizing the future is a competitive advantage. Arguably, it's the ultimate competitive advantage. Rule number 99, the mom test. tomorrow is Mother's Day, so I thought I'd mention the book The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. It's a great book, and the basic idea is you have to learn how to ask questions in a way where you'll get real information from the answers, because the fact is usually people will try to spare your feelings. Just like your mom might. If you ask her, Mom, hey, I have this idea for an app. Do you think it's a good idea? She'll probably say, oh, yes, honey, what a great idea. Good job. So you've got to kind of hide your idea when you're asking questions of potential users. Ask about the user's problems, not about your idea, because if you ask people about your idea, they'll want to give you positive feedback, and that will corrupt the data. Anyway, happy Mother's Day. Entrepreneur rule number 100, say thank you. No one builds a business alone. Even if you're a sole proprietor, some support system has helped you succeed, whether it's your family, your friends, your team, or your customers. If you've experienced any success, you owe a debt of gratitude. To wit, I'm always really blown away that people watch these videos and they subscribe, and I just feel really grateful for that, and I feel grateful for you. So thank you. Well, these have been 100 entrepreneur rules. Cheers.